Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.
This is a public hearing on petition 55-22. Verizon New England requests permission to locate poles, wires, cables, and fixtures, including the necessary anchors, guys, and other such sustaining and protecting fixtures to be owned and used in common by your petitioners along and across the following public way or ways. Merriam Avenue, Place 1, solely owned pole numbered T.104S on the east side of Merriam Avenue at a point approximately 163 feet northerly from the center line of Shadow Lawn Drive. Reason, place one solely owned pole on Merriam Avenue at the request of an abutter to remove a trespass and to provide for the distribution of intelligence and telecommunications. Wherefore, they pray that after due notice and hearing as provided by law, they be granted joint or identical locations for and permission to erect and maintain poles, wires, and cables, together with anchors, guys, and other such sustaining and protecting fixtures as they may find necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Verizon number 1A5F8DP dated February 16, 2022. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. Your petitioners agree to reserve space for one cross arm at a suitable point on each of said poles for the fire and police telephone and telegraph signal wires belonging to the municipality and used by it, exclusively for municipal purposes. So this petition, we're having a public hearing again this evening. We had prior public hearings on 5/23, 6/13, and we continued the hearing tonight to 6/27. And I would ask the audience, is there anybody here from Verizon to represent Verizon this evening? No. Okay. After the last public hearing, we still had several questions for Verizon, and they're significant and substantial. We want to know the location, the proposed location. We asked them to mark the road. They haven't done that. We asked for the Verizon representative who was here, and we had a conversation with, also to, he was going to go back to his engineering department to ask for any alternatives. We discussed the possibility of a more substantial pole to maintain that load on the pole across the street. And is there any way to lighten the load on the pole across the street? So given that there isn't a representative here from Verizon this evening, I'll go to my committee, but I just don't know that there's any action that we can take on this evening. Councilor Brady?
I think we need to continue until
Okay.
we get the answers from Verizon.
Okay. Okay, Councilor Frida? Same? Okay. Are there any other councilors who have questions or comments about this petition? Councilor Angelini?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I did drive by the site earlier today, and all I noticed on the roadway and the sidewalk are dig-safe markings. Appears to be
Okay, couldn't hear.
dig-safe markings from National Grid, the gas company, and Verizon, but there was no indication that they had marked where that pole
Okay.
was going to be located. So, again, I'm quite disappointed. This is the second public hearing they've failed to attend, yet they tell us that this is a relative emergency. So it's rather perplexing, but appreciate the opportunity to comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else on the council? Councilor Arndinger?
Thank you very much. As I drive past the pole and I look at their original drawing, when they have this new pole location, it's going to be about 2 feet behind a tree, a very sturdy, young tree there. And, if they put a big hole in there, that's probably going to kill that tree. The second issue is, ideally, you want that pole, those poles to be exactly perpendicular. And where are they going to put the guy wire?
Right.
That's, right through the tree?
Yep.
That's just, it's just a poorly thought out. So I would like to see, complete plans showing me everything that's going to be there, including the tree. And just my comments. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, Councilor, and I agree with you, having been to the site as well.
Yeah.
So at this point, I guess that we'll keep the public hearing open, and we'll continue it to July 5th.
I would recommend July 11th, 2022 at 6:50 PM, and if you could just poll the public to see if anybody wanted to speak.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody in the public who would like to speak in support of this petition? No? Anybody else who would like to speak in support of the petition? And for a third time, is there anybody who'd like to speak? Would anybody like to speak in opposition to the petition? Again, for a second time, any opposition, and a third. Okay, nobody, seeing no one in the public hearing, in the public that would like to comment, we will keep this public informational meeting open until July 11th at 6:50. Thank you.
It's 6:50 PM. We have the first of 3 interviews this evening. I'd like to invite Bill Como. You would come inside the bar and turn on your microphone.
Inside the bar. I think it's on. Can you hear me?
Can you try it? This one.
Yep.
Perfect. Good evening, Bill Como. This is an interview. Dean Mazzarella, the mayor, has requested the appointment of Bill Como to the License Commission, term to expire on April 15th, 2028. My name is Pauline Cormier. I am the chairwoman of the Ways and Means Committee. To my left is Councilor Ardinger. He is the clerk of Ways and Means, and directly across from me is Councilor Todd Deacon, who's the third member of the committee. Bill, we want to welcome you,
Thank you.
and we'll start off by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an attorney practicing in Leominster. I've been practicing since 1989 on my own. Passed the bar in '86, and I was on the school committee for 10 years. I left that position about 5 years ago now, I think, after my daughter graduated from high school. I thought it was time to pass the torch to somebody else. When I was on the committee, I thought that we had a very, we worked well together, the committee did. We had our disagreements, but things, I think, went well. When I was on the committee, we got a statewide award for the achievements of the committee, so that was a positive thing. Dean asked me to consider applying for this position, and I thought about it for a couple of weeks, and I thought it was time to get back and give a little back to the city, so that's why I'm here.
And what's your understanding of the License Commission?
Not much, to be honest with you. I received the regulations and the paperwork a few weeks ago, and I've had just the opportunity to skim it at this point. I will be ready for the first meeting, though. I understand they scheduled it for this coming Thursday. So I understand that, you know, my obligation is to assist the commission in compliance with the rules and regulations, and, you know, certainly want to promote healthy businesses in the city. So that's going to be my focus.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. I'm going to open it up to questions of members of my committee. Councilor Ardinger?
All right. Excuse me, thank you. I really don't have any questions, Bill, but, you know, the License Commission, as Councilor Brady mentioned, affects affects every business in this city. It's a tremendous responsibility. Just something that, if you assume this position, it may be more than what you think you are going to be doing. This could be a larger job than you expect. So,
Well,
you know, but I think you should do well. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Deacon?
I just want to welcome you aboard. I support the mayor's request, and I think you'll do an excellent job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And I'm going to open this up to any other members of the council, and I think I'll just go around the table if that's okay. Councilor Frida?
No questions, just comments. I've known Bill for many, many years, and watching him in action, he's been more than fair on a lot of difficult decisions at times, and I feel that you'll do the same thing on the License Commission. I think it's important as well to have an attorney on there, and that is your profession, so I'm very happy to support your appointment.
Thank you very much, Councilor.
All set, Councilor. And Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr?
Thanks, Pauline. I don't really have any questions either, but do want to thank you for, you know, bringing your education and your expertise and all of your experience, you know, in the legal profession to the License Commission. I think you'll be a big asset. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And just to clarify, as I'm going around the table, Councilor Brady has abstained, will not take part in this because he is actually a member who has a license in town. So.
Understood. Yeah.
Councilor Angelini?
I'm comfortable, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
Councilor Bedanza?
Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Mark.
I've known Bill for, I think, almost his entire professional career,
Yes, you have.
and I've always known him to be a very common sense, level-headed approach to things. And I'm sure you'll do an excellent job. Thank you for volunteering your services and time to the city again.
Thank you.
And Council President?
Thank you very much. I don't have any questions, Bill, but I wish you well. I know it's, an active, one of the more active committees in town, and very important to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So I'm sure you'll do very well. And, like anything else, I'm sure there'll be some contentious times, but I'm sure your demeanor will help everybody through. So I think you have that level-headedness to do the job. So I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bill. And that concludes your interview. Wasn't too painful. If you want to stay around, I believe I will make a request to the council president, and perhaps we can move this vote up earlier on our agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next interview is with Isaiah Karanda, and I'm praying I pronounced that correctly. Karanda?
Pretty close. Karanda.
Karanda. Okay, thank you. Mr. Karanda, actually, if you each just introduce yourselves for the people at home.
Good evening. I'm William Connor. I am the Chief Assessor.
Rick Dondero, Assistant Assessor.
And Isaiah Karanda, Hopeful Assistant Assessor.
Get that close.
Hopeful Assistant Assessor. Yeah, that's good.
There you go.
Is it on? Is it on now? There we go. Okay, that's
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Welcome, and I'm sure you heard I introduced myself earlier today. And again, the members of my committee are Councilor Ardinger and Councilor Deacon. Just a few questions, and if you'd like to give us a little background on yourself and your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've basically been working in real estate off and on my entire career, which started at 14 years old. I started off file clerk, worked my way up to title abstractor, and have a lot of background basically in the title industry, title sales of things, making sure that people are actually properly in their homes and maintain ownership correctly, which has definitely provided me a lot of solace because no one wants to randomly lose their home. From there, I did have some time working out in Colorado, and when the COVID hit, it kind of showed my wife and I, how important it was to be back near family, as we both grew up in this area, so we kind of took the opportunity to move back, and that's what we've been working on, is just building our family, being near our family, and enjoying it.
And I looked over your application. Can you tell us a little bit about the certifications you've earned?
Yeah, so I did quite a lot of certifications on my own back in Colorado. I've done a lot of the basic appraisal education, as you can see, the use PAP, all that sort of stuff. I did work in Merrimack for a while there, about 2 years, got certified up there with the DRA there, the state statutes and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I have also actually recently completed DOR 101 here. Just did that, what was that, last week? Yep, end of last week I finished that.
Okay, I'm going to go around and I will ask Councilor Ardinger if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Karanda, the resume looks very impressive, to be honest with you. And I always like to ask people not always, I should say, but many times, if we were to call the city of Merrimack, New Hampshire, the town of Merrimack, New Hampshire, what would they tell us about you?
I believe that they would tell you that I was a pretty hard worker, very diligent. I came into the assessing role there with only some basically self-taught classes in terms of assessment and appraisal, and I really was able to jump in and just kind of hit the ground with my feet running. So.
Okay. That's the only question I have, and I think you'll do very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Deacon?
Yes, I looked over your resume as well, and Councilor Ardinger took the words out of my mouth. It was going to be the same question, so I'm going to support this going forward.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Connor, do you have anything to add about Mr. Karanda?
Well, I'd just like to maybe point attention to the fact that the assessment world is experiencing what we're calling the silver tsunami, where a lot of people got into this industry in the 80s when Proposition 2.5 came about. And when we received Isaiah's resume and cover letter, we were kind of ecstatic to have the opportunity to hire somebody with his credentials. And when we had the interview, he just nailed it. And he has shown up and hit the ground running. So it's been wonderful, and I think we consider ourselves very lucky.
Thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot. I'm going to open this up to the rest of the council, and again, I'm just going to go around the table. Councilor Frida?
I'm not finding it on here, but maybe it is. Are you licensed in Massachusetts?
I am not yet. As I said, I was working up in New Hampshire most recently, so I'm working on my licensure here.
Were you licensed in New Hampshire prior to this?
Yes.
So what stage are you at in the Massachusetts licensing?
I'm still just in the very beginning, as I've only been here a few weeks.
And are you going for residential, or are you going for certified?
Eventually, I'll probably be going for certified.
I'm sorry?
Eventually, I will be going for certified.
All right, that's all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr?
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't have many questions. Certainly I take the other assessors, for their word about your expertise and about your performance in the interview, because they certainly understand the world of appraising a lot more than I do. But I am, I'm impressed that the additional qualifications, that you have sought out and completed, additional training in the field. I think that that's very important, and I would hope, obviously it's a changing field and laws change, and you have to keep up to date on everything. So, in addition to getting your Massachusetts certification, I hope that you'll continue, pursuing those additional training opportunities whenever you can, because that's very valuable. So I like that. That's impressive.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Brady, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Councilor Angelini?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Councilor Bedanza?
No questions.
Council President?
Yeah, I just have a very quick question. When do you expect to obtain your certification? How long? What's the process? How long is it?
It all basically, as I understand, depends on when the classes are released. A number of them have to be attended in person versus online, so that will definitely determine the availability and how long that takes.
Okay. Is it like usually months? Is it a year? Is it?
It can sometimes take a couple of years, depending, like I said, when the classes are available, but it should be done within 2 to 3, no problem.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Connor, the fact that he's not officially licensed in Massachusetts, how does that affect any of the work that he does here?
No, it's very common to allow for 2 years to people to get their MAA designation,
Okay.
Which is never really, I've never seen anybody have a difficulty achieving that.
Okay. Okay. If there is no other questions, then we will end this interview. I want to thank you for coming in tonight. As I explained to Mr. Como, I will try to coerce the City Council President to move up this vote a little bit earlier on the agenda, so you're welcome to stay.
Excellent. Madam Chair, could I ask another question?
Certainly.
Can you give me an idea what you were doing, what's involved in the valuation analysis and your working for Wells Fargo?
So it was a combination of things. When I first started, I was reviewing appraisals that were sent in to the bank. So it was basically one-offs more often than not. They were pre-foreclosure assignments. There was a lot of, the hard tack of making sure that they were all within spec and that, the comparables were acceptable and that sort of thing. And then I moved into the recruitment side of things, which was actually really where I started my education, because I saw how much of a need we had for appraisers and assessors just basically nationwide, whereas I was recruiting within all 50 states and both territories. So
When you went from contracted evaluation, was that, it looks like it, was that within the same company?
Yes, it was. So I was a contract
So you were-
employee and then got hired full-time with the bank.
You were 1 year at one job, and then you moved to 1 year with another job,
Yep.
and you left there and you went, is that,
Well, I wouldn't say I left. It was more I was hired on full-time. I went from the contract position with the company to being a full-time employee receiving benefits and all that sort of thing. So it was more of a promotion, I would say, than a changing jobs.
thank you.
Okay.
All set, Counselor Freedy?
Yeah. I have to begin the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we're running late. I totally lost track of time. So we'll go, are you all set with these interviews?
Yes.
Is
Thank you.
Okay. So before we go to the next one, I'm going to open the meeting and then we'll recess. So at this point, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Leominster City Council to order for June 27th, 2022. Will you all please stand and join me for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm now going to take a roll call of the honorable members of the Leominster City Council, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Present?
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Ardinger.
Present.
Councilor Angelini.
Present.
Councilor Brady.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Deacon.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
All 9 members are present. Madam Vice President, do you have any records to approve this evening?
I do, Mr. President. I have the records from May 23rd, 2022, and June 13th of 2022. I find them to be in good order, and I ask that they be placed on file.
Okay, if there are no objections, we will place the minutes of those 2 meetings on file. Okay, at this time, I'd ask that we have a motion for a recess so we can conduct Councilor Bedanza's hand, and then I saw Councilor Cormier. All those in favor of going into recess signify in usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0. We now stand in recess, and would the Chairwoman of Ways and Means conduct the 6:52 p.m. interview?
Thank you, Mr. President. Nicholas Abruzzi?
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
This is the 6:52 p.m. interview with Nicholas Abruzzi. This is a Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, has requested the permanent appointment of Nicholas Abruzzi to the position of Director of Recreation for the City of Leominster for a term of 3 years. Welcome, Mr. Abruzzi.
Thank you very much for having me.
Again, I introduced myself earlier, but I will do it again. I'm Pauline Cormier. I'm the Chairwoman of Ways and Means. To my left is the Clerk of Ways and Means, Councilor Ardinger, and directly across from me is the third member, Councilor Deacon. We want to welcome you.
Thank you.
And offer you the opportunity at this point to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. I'm extremely excited to work with the City of Leominster. I live in Milford, Massachusetts, with my wife. I have one 24-year-old son who's currently in the recreation industry as well. I've worked for the City of Waltham for the past 24 years in the recreation and parks industry, and I'm really excited about the opportunity in Leominster, so I'm excited to be here tonight.
And Mr. Abruzzi, and I think everyone on this council will agree that we are all very impressed with our recreation department and all that they do on a very limited budget. So you have some big shoes to fill over there.
Okay.
Can you give us your ideas that you have for the future of the recreation department?
I think there's a lot of good ideas. A lot of things they're doing very well, obviously, like you said. I think just from what I've learned with my research till now, programming, I think, diversifying programming a little bit. I think the website, social media presence, I think could be enhanced a little bit. Those are the things right off the top that I noticed. And my the position I'm just leaving in Waltham, we did a lot with capital improvement projects, so I'd be excited about evaluating the facilities to see what type of improvements we could do here in Leominster.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your experience in Waltham.
I was the assistant director in Waltham from 1998, I believe, till 16, I believe. My boss, I believe she was at 36 years, retired. And then I took over as director. I've been in that position ever since. We handle all parks recreation program services. We have multi-purpose artificial turf field complex that we oversee, we program, we schedule. We do all the field permitting for 26 facilities. We do the upkeep on all those fields as well. We have a very popular and aggressive, I think, plan that we put together every year for all of our 4 seasons of recreation programming. And I think the biggest thing I could say that we've done in the last 7, 8 years is our capital improvement projects for the city of Waltham. If you look at the website, if you look, anyone knows anything about Waltham, we have all new facilities that we've really done a great job, I think, of revitalizing a lot of the parks in the city, because I think the mayor is very aggressive when it comes to allowing us the funds to redo the parks and redo the facilities, and it shows. It's one of the, I think, best cities around for parks.
And what drew you to Leominster?
Honestly, it's going to sound a little crazy, but my son played football years ago, and we played in Leominster on a Friday night. And I'll never forget the energy that I felt in the stadium. I'm a sports fanatic. I grew up playing sports, and my son's the same way. So when we came out to Leominster, I used to root to match up against him again, because I think it's Doyle Field that we played at, that the energy in the field was just amazing. I think Fox 25 was there that night covering one of the playoff games, and I'll never forget the energy. I said that to the interview panel that I met with, and so when the position was posted, I just, again, I've been in Waltham for 24 years. I've had a great experience there. I felt like this would be an awesome challenge for me to come and be a part of something special in Leominster, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's my questions. I'm going to open up to my committee. Councillor Ardinger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you indicated that you felt there was some need to diversify some of our programs, could you give me an idea as to what you were speaking about?
I think any community, you need to take a step back. I think when I leave Waltham, I think they'll step back and take a look at the programs that we offer, and maybe look at it a different way and see the different types of programs that you can offer. I think in Waltham, for example, special needs programs and incorporating all the programs to be inclusive, I think is really important. That's something, that'd probably be one of the first things I would do in Leominster, just to see where that level is. And then just making sure that we're offering programs that meet the needs of all the age groups and for all people of ability, and diversifying to the point where you're making it available to everybody.
Thank you. As I looked at all of your citations and recommendations, all the supplements you sent to the interview, how did you ever find time to work?
I don't know what you mean, but I'm assuming you mean the certifications?
Yes.
Well, I think that's part of working. You have to, when you are in charge or responsible for all those parks and playgrounds, you need to have the certifications to be able to oversee those and make sure that they're up to code, so.
And you'll maintain those certifications?
That's something I take pride in those, so yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Councillor Deacon?
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
I think your years of experience over 24 years is going to be an asset to our recreation department.
Thank you.
It's very active. It's been very successful in the city. If you take a ride around it, you can see all the parks and the job that the people that work for us do in them.
Yep.
And I looked over your resume, and I think this is going to be a good fit, so I wish you luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Frida?
First of all, he told me that you would absolutely laugh when I tell you this, but John McLaughlin is really upset with the fact that you're going to be leaving Waltham. I did make a couple phone calls, because I usually do when we have someone before us.
Sure.
And I've known John for years, and he's been a councilor in Waltham almost as long as I've been here.
I actually met John.
And his children are all in their 20s, and they all went through your programs. And
exactly. Yeah.
He couldn't say enough good things about you.
That's nice to hear. Thank you.
Mayor McCarthy and Robert Logan, who also I know well, just all sang you praises. And what we're all about here in Leominster is pretty much everything that you've done and have been about in Waltham. So
that's nice to hear.
I look forward to supporting your appointment.
Thank you very much. And John McLaughlin is just all of them wonderful people. And I've worked with, John was a Little League president, I think, when I first started working with him, and then he joined the council, and he's been fantastic. He's been a big proponent of our programs and supported us very, very well. So one of my closest co-workers, I'd say, in Waltham. Thank you.
I'm good.
Any other counselors? Counselor Shalfo Zephyr?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do you say Abruzzi?
Abruzzi.
Abruzzi, okay.
Well, either way, people say it both ways. so,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. Your
Thank
resume
you.
is very impressive.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And as Madam Chair said, you do have very big shoes to fill. Mrs. Sumner has been, with the city for a very long time and has done a good job. And the city has a very active and, well-known recreation commission, so you'll have great people to work with, I think.
I've met a few on the interview panel that were on the commission, and they were very, very nice to meet. So
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to working with them.
Excellent. Is Waltham a gateway city?
No.
Probably not. Well, Leominster is a gateway city, and we have a very diverse population. So what you had mentioned earlier about making sure that every program is inclusive, that's very, very important,
It is
certainly to me.
It is, absolutely. Waltham, one of the passions of mine working in Waltham is we work with so many different people, so many different types of people, age, background, and, it's something where you take great pride in making sure that you can make accommodations for everybody to be in programs and build facilities that are conducive to everybody being able to attend and take part in the programs because of the way you build them and because of the way you offer the programs. So.
Well, I think that's great, so thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming in, and I look forward to supporting
Thank you very much.
your
Appreciate it.
appointment.
Thank you. Any other counselors have any questions? Counselor Angelini?
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
Abruzzi. I, as well, went through your resume, very impressive.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to go down a little side path with you. I'm
Okay.
sure, you're just getting your feet wet here in the community, but I certainly share your feelings about Doyle Field. And another colleague of mine is also a member of the Doyle Field Commission, but we also have wonderful outdoor recreational opportunities here. A lot of us, through public and private collaborations, developed a trail system going from 9 miles
Yep.
from Leominster to Sterling, so I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yep.
So, and you're going to meet some wonderful volunteers, the Leominster Trail Stewards, a guy like Dick O'Brien. I warn you, if you volunteer to go out with them on a Saturday to work, you
Won't come back
bring
till
some
Monday.
yeah. But other than that, I welcome you to the community and look forward to
Thank you very
working
much.
with
We
you
had a really strong steward program where I was in Waltham at Prospect Hill Park, and just the passion of the volunteers. That's how you get a lot of work done, for obviously maybe not having a big budget for that particular area. So I look forward to meeting, all the people that are willing to make make Leominster a better place.
Terrific, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Counselor Bedanza?
Mr. Abruzzi, welcome.
Thank you.
As, like Counselor Angelini, I also sit on the Doyle Field Commission, which is a creature of statute when it was donated to the city back in 1931. Also, your predecessor was a member of the Leominster Football Foundation, which is a private nonprofit that has contributed a lot of time and effort and money to the restoration of Doyle Field over the last 8 to 9 years, maybe 10 years now. So, I'd like to talk to the board of, maybe we could welcome you aboard to that in her stead. I'm a testament to football heritage of Leominster for a variety of reasons, and I'm glad that drew you here.
I'm a testament to football in general and just all sports. Honestly, I coached high school football for about 10.
I saw that on your resume.
Yeah, and, any way that I could get back involved with, working with people that have a passion like I do for that, for sports in general, but for football especially, I'd be definitely interested in doing that.
I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you.
And Council President Cormier?
Thank you very much. Just out of curiosity, what kind of a budget did you have in Waltham? What did you have to work with?
So we had a wide array, I guess, of different types of budgets. So we had an operational budget that was probably around $2.6 million. And we had special revenue accounts, special self-supporting budgets that we use for program purposes. Our block grant money that we applied for every year was based on demographic area. And our capital improvement budgets were, something we had 5 to 8 year capital improvement plans that was really the genesis of creating all the great projects that we were able to build was through the capital program and actually the block grant program as well as CPC funding. So wide range of budgeting experience. That's something I'm very comfortable with. I really enjoyed the budget process. And, we were very, very lucky we did have a pretty good sized budget in Waltham. I was actually looking at that today just to kind of get an idea of like, I had a feeling I'd get asked that, and I'm like 2.6. If you count operational and special revenues, that's not including like the block grant or the capital improvement money.
Okay. When you were speaking, it just made, I felt like it was definitely a lot more robust, what you were working with there in Waltham, as opposed to here. So, we're looking at I think a $400 and some odd thousand a year budget. So
I saw it. Yep.
Going to be very, a little different.
Definitely different, but I think there's opportunities with any budget that someone has to work with to make changes, make positive impacts.
Right.
We have a $2.6 million budget line, like I said, but we also work with private corporations that abut certain parks to do community outreach projects to have them impact positive, social responsibility from their end. And we just finished a project that was $75,000 that we got from this company to put fitness stations in the trails that abut their company. That would entice their employees to come and work there, and at the same time, our residents get a chance to use that as well. So there's also, even when you have a lot of money, there's ways to do things that you can save money and take advantage of opportunities through partnerships in the community. That's what I hope to build in Leominster.
Good. No, it sounds like you definitely, have a vision and certainly can, work with the commission to come up with some good proposals and, present them to the mayor and, see if we can grow programs, as well, which would be good.
I think that's a big thing, is growing the programs, and I think the notoriety of the programs and building a presence on social media so that, that people are aware of all the programs that are available and taking advantage of opportunities any way you can to offer more programming for kids. I think today, today's day and age with the mental issues that people have in society, post-COVID, even before COVID, it's so important. What we do is so important to make sure that we're giving distractions to people to allow them to recreate in safe places and make their lives better.
Good. No, I'm certainly looking forward to, any and all ideas that you can bring to Leominster, and it definitely sounds like with your experience, you can certainly do that, and, look forward to hopefully, seeing some of these things that, come to mind as you kind of get your feet wet here. We can get some things moving and get some growth in the rec commission and get some more, some more good programs that people can benefit from, to keep kids, off our streets. And,
I agree.
And, keep their minds focused on doing what they should be doing and not things that they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
So
I agree.
definitely look forward to all of the opportunities that you can bring to our city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Councilor Brady?
Yeah, just to expand on that, much experience in Waltham with grant writing or things like that?
We had someone that actually did some of the grant writing for us, but we were very involved in the block grant program that Waltham has, and identifying areas based on income levels to qualify for certain grants. Very experienced in working with those types of.
Fantastic. We have a great grant writer.
That's what I was told. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's so funny. It's like just going. Yeah, and going back to your comments. I think I gave my notice about 4.5, 5 weeks ago. I was talking to Wendy earlier. It's just I have been so excited just to get here tonight so that we can kind of get moving, and done a lot of research on Leominster. I'm just really excited about finding the ways that we can bring money together to put more programs through and build projects and parks that we're all proud of.
Any other councilors? Mr. Abruzzi, I did have one question. When I look through all your certifications, what I was thinking of is I know in the city here and surrounding cities and towns, we have problems finding lifeguards?
Yep, those were the things I was going to talk about tonight. Yeah, the water safety instructors.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Do you have a plan for that?
I think recruitment, I teach part-time at LaSalle University in Newton, and a big, huge benefit to that has been interns that we've brought over from LaSalle to Waltham and had them, working for us basically for free, getting the intern hours that they need, and we were able to train them to any level that we want. So right off the top, I think trying to find, ways to bring people in that you could, help them with programming for their own purposes, whether it's school or whatever programs they're in, and, make an investment in somebody. A lot of times what we try to do in Waltham was pick somebody that we felt like we'd have for 2 or 3 years. You get somebody who's a, college senior, and they're great for 1 year, but you train them, you get them ready, and all of a sudden they're gone after 1 year. We really try to shoot for, someone, freshman, sophomore in college, so you can keep that benefit of 4 years with that person, and it helps build a little bit of depth, I think, in the rotation that you have with your instructors. So I think early and often, trying to get the word out as quickly and as early as you can, and, promoting trainings that you can offer to people, I think is a big part of it. And getting the word out. I think a lot of the area schools, letting people know that these jobs are available, and making a commitment that you're willing to pay the going rate for people to work as water safety instructors or lifeguards or whatever the position is.
Well, I will tell you that going through high school, I was certified as a lifeguard, WSI instructor, first aid, the whole thing that comes with it.
Yep.
And I took all those courses and was able to get my certification through the Recreation Department for the city of Leominster.
Yep, that's how we do it a lot. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm one of the, one of my issues that I'd like to see.
Well, I think I saw that lessons were postponed, I think, and some other programs were postponed due to low, staff levels. And that's just something that I think I would start as soon as I start working, is really start building the base. I think one of the things that I'm proud of, and it was hard leaving Waltham, was the base of people that we had working for us, both at the full-time, part-time, seasonal. Our seasonal employees came back every year, so we had a really good group that we could count on for a lot of different areas, and, again, diversifying so that we're cross-training people on all different things so that they can work here in the wintertime, but here in the spring and here in the summer. You're really taking advantage of them, and you're giving them great experience to put on a resume that they can take, to a future full-time job somewhere. So I really think investing time to get to know people and engage in the community for, the opportunities that we could have available for people would be, I think, one of the first things I'd look at.
Great, that's a great idea. Like I said, I was very fortunate to do that in high school. When I went to college, come home on summers, and I already knew I had a job lined up. So
yep, absolutely.
I think that's one of the programs I would like to see myself. Okay, is there any other counselors with any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Abruzzi, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
As I said, I will ask the president if we can move up the appointments on these a little bit earlier on the agenda.
Okay.
So you're welcome to stay or
Sounds
go,
great.
or it's...
Okay, thank you.
But thank you very much.
Thank you, nice to meet you all.
And on that, Mr. President, I'm turning it back over to you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to hold a public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on a matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. There is nobody that has signed up this evening, but I will ask, are there any members of the audience that would like to speak at the public forum? If so, please step to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Mr. Kelly.
Hope I didn't scare anyone else. No. My name's James J. Kelly Jr., live at 312 Grant Street, and I'm here tonight to just support the appointment of Bill Como to the Leominster License Commission. I agree with all the comments and the, I'm going to say, reviews that you gave him tonight, and I agree with the City Council that he will be a good fit for the Leominster License Commission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak at the public forum? And once again, would anybody like to speak at the public forum? For the third and final time, would anybody like to speak at the public forum? Seeing none, I declare the public forum closed. We are now back in session, and we will move right into communications from the mayor, beginning with C-9, Madam Clerk.
C-99, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $100,000 be made to the school transportation expense account, the same to be transferred from the stabilization account.
And C-99 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course, please.
C-99 has been given regular course. C-100.
C-100, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the amount of $100,000 be transferred from the Police Department Patrol Salary and Wages account to the Overtime Shift Coverage account. Regarding this amount is for shift coverage and investigations.
And C-100 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, first time on the calendar, regular course, please.
C-100 has been given regular course. C-101.
C-101, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the amount of $19,000 be transferred from the Police Department grant account to the per diem salary and wages account regarding per diem shift coverage salaries.
C-101 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you. Regular course, please.
C-101 has been given regular course. C-102.
C-102, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the amount of $4,000 be transferred from the Police Department salary and wages account to the collective bargaining account regarding to cover unexpected retirement buyback payments in the present budget.
And C-102 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Once again, regular course.
C-102 has been given regular course. C-103.
C-103, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $90,000 be made to the Leominster DPW Public Employees Local Union 39 Department Salary and Wages, Overtime, and Vacation Sick Buyback accounts, the same amount to be transferred transferred from the collective bargaining account. General fund accounts, $52,500. Water, $22,500. Sewer, $15,000.
And C-103 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the agenda, regular course.
C-103 has been given regular course, and we have one reappointment.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the reappointment of Marcel Ledger, 74 Buttermilk Road, Leominster, to the Leominster Housing Authority, term to expire 4/15/2027.
And this appointment is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course.
This reappointment has been given regular course. Moving on to petitions, first time on the agenda, 62-22.
62-22, Pauline Cormier, Ward 2 Councilor, requests stop signs to be placed at the junction of 8th Street and Spruce Streets, both northbound and southbound.
And 62-22 is referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
I'm sorry, first time on the calendar, regular course, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. 62-22 has been given regular course. We probably should refer this as well to the Police Department Traffic Division. Okay.
Public hearing.
Oh, and we also have to establish a public hearing, which is being requested for July 11th, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. If that's okay?
July 11th at 6:42?
At 6:45 p.m. All those in favor of, I'm assuming regular course with that one referral? Everybody good with that one referral? And we'll take a vote to establish the public hearing for July 11th, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. All those in favor signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 9-0. That public hearing has been established. 63-22.
63-22, Gregory C. Chapdelaine, purchasing agent, requests to enter into a 6-year contract for bill printing and mailing services for the Treasurer and Collector's Office.
And 63-22 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course, please.
63-22 has been given regular course. We will now move on to matters before the City Council. And at this time, I would ask the Chairwoman of Ways and Means to entertain the appointments, and there are 3 of them. We'll do one at a time by roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just find it.
Page 8.
Thank you. Appointments. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the appointment of Bill Como to the License Commission, term to expire 4/15/2028. We had Mr. Como in for an interview this evening, and I think most of us on the council know Mr. Como as an attorney and as a former member of the school committee. I can say that I believe he's going to be a great fit on the License Commission. Mr. Como is very steady. He's very thoughtful. He has a wonderful reputation as an attorney, as being fair, as being thoughtful, and doing a thorough job. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we grant the appointment of Mr. Como to the License Commission, and I would ask you to poll the members of my committee.
Thank you very much. Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
Councilor Deacon?
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant or confirm the appointment of William Como to the License Commission. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Council Bedanza.
Yay?
Council Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Brady.
Abstain.
Oh, sorry, thank you very much. Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Deacon.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 8-0. Congratulations, William Bill Como, for your appointment to the commission. Okay, moving on to the second of three.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the appointment of Isaiah Caranda to the Board of Assessors, term to expire 4/15/2025. Mr. Caranda was here for an interview this evening. He has very good references and recommendations from the assessor's office. I think he would be a very good addition to that office, and I would support the confirmation of this appointment, and I'd ask you to poll the members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Arndinger.
I agree.
Councilor Deacon.
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant the appointment of Isaiah Caranda. Is there any discussion? Councilor Frida.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this appointment tonight. I'm concerned with, if you look at employment history, he's been a year in one place, a year in another place, a year in another place. He's in 2 places at the same time by the looks, the other employment plus the Merrimack. And I'm really concerned with the fact that he doesn't have a license. Not only to mention the fact that he doesn't have a license, there's very little in the way of education towards a license that he has taken. He's got, I know the education. I know no one else is familiar with it, but even a 15-hour equivalent use PAP, that's a mandatory licensing, and it's every 2 years. The last one he took is 2018. So he doesn't even have that up to date for the next 2 years after that. It's nothing personal against him. I just think that there's a real lack of experience that I'm concerned about. The assessor's office is a very important place to be, especially when people's taxes go up. You need to be able to answer why and explain why to people. And assessing values is not going to be an easy task in the years to come with the real estate balloon that we had, and what we're going to be looking at when some of these rates start to drop. So I'm not comfortable supporting this recommendation tonight.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this appointment? Okay. Seeing none, I will also do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Yay?
Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Brady.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Deacon.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Nay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 8-1. The appointment of Isaiah Caranda has been confirmed. Congratulations. And moving on to the third of three, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the permanent appointment of Nicholas Abruzzi to the position of Director of Recreation for the City of Leominster for a term of 3 years. Also, we had Mr. Abruzzi here for an interview tonight, and as Councilor Frieda pointed out, I did a little research on my own, and I'm happy to say that Mr. Abruzzi comes very highly recommended. As you saw from his credentials, that he has been a very strong advocate of the Recreation Department in Waltham, both as a coach and as a director. And he has outstanding certifications and outstanding references. I would be very happy to recommend that we grant the appointment of Mr. Abruzzi to the position of Director of Recreation, and I'd ask you to poll the members of my committee.
Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
Councilor Deacon?
I agree.
Okay. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to confirm the appointment of Mr. Nicholas Abruzzi to the being Director of Recreation. Is there any other discussion? Councilor Frieda?
Yep, I totally support this. He comes highly recommended by a number of people that I have the utmost respect for and that I've known for years and years. So I'm happy to see him come here, but sad for them that they're losing him. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we will also do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Brady.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Deacon.
Yay.
Councilor Frieda.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. Nicholas Abruzzi has been confirmed as the Director of Recreation for the City of Leominster. Congratulations. Okay, moving on to the financial report. Mr. Chairman of Finance, are you ready to report?
I am. We don't have a formal new financial report this meeting. The comptroller was away last week, but I did the math and can report that we began the fiscal year with a balance in the stabilization account of $19,904,603. Interest earnings through June 13th were at $51,100. We transferred in from excess and deficiency $4,700,000, leaving a balance of $24,655,703. Through the last meeting, we expended or planned to expend $3,886,998. There's an additional $313,000 on the agenda for the first time this evening, which totals $4,238,133. If all that's approved, it'll leave a balance in the stabilization account of $20,417,570, and that's the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any questions, comments regarding the financial report? Seeing none, we will move on to items under Finance 57-22.
Very well. 57-22, the City of Leominster Retirement Board voted unanimously to increase the COLA base amount for the City of Leominster Retirement Board retirees from $12,000 to $13,000. Our City Council President is in the process of investigating the ethical ramifications or propriety of our votes on this, based on the fact that I think most of us, if not all of us, participate in the retirement program. And the city solicitor is looking into that as we speak. So it would be my recommendation to give 57-22 further time until we can get a read from our legal counsel on what our responsibilities are with this. I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Cormier.
Absolutely, I agree.
And Councilor Angelini.
That sounds quite reasonable. I'm in agreement.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant further time to 57-22. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 57-22 further time, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 9-0. This has been given further time, and I will note that I did speak to the comptroller this afternoon, and there is no problem with, it's time sensitive, but it's not, the time isn't tonight. They have till the end of July to figure out what, what they'll be, what the amount will be. So we have some time to get that questioned and answered. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything, the right way. And if there's an issue, then we'll take the advice of the city solicitor. It should be very simple once he can get us an answer. Thank you very much. Moving on to C-90.
Very well. C90, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request an appropriation of $179,000 be made to their refuse disposal expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Under our contract for residential refuse and recycling, there is a tonnage calculation or base, and everybody knows what happened during COVID. Everybody took the opportunity to clean their homes out, and our city is pretty generous with what they pick up at the curb, and apparently we've exceeded the tonnage and therefore exceeded the amount that's been budgeted for that. So it'd be my recommendation, Mr. President, that we grant C-90, and I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Councilor Cormier?
I agree.
And Councilor Angelini?
I'm in agreement as well.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-90. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-90 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-90 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
I do. Order that the sum of $179,000 be appropriated to the refuse disposal expense account, same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-90 has been granted. C-91.
C-91, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request an appropriation of $2,500,000 be made to the Fallbrook School Capital Project Fund. Same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account, undesignated balance. This is in connection with a feasibility study that will be conducted to determine the best way to proceed with the upgrade of the Fallbrook Elementary School. This is 74% reimbursable. You'll see language attached to the communication in the form of a motion/vote order. Do I need to read that, Madam Clerk? I'll read that now. The comptroller tells me that this isn't really for future reference, that we're not going to do a ban on this amount. A ban is a bond anticipation note, which is sometimes what the city does for short-term borrowing before a bond is actually issued. We're not going that route with this, but this language is sort of prophylactic for future appropriations in this particular project. And it says that the city or Leominster appropriate the amount of $2,500,000 for the purpose of paying costs of the Fallbrook Elementary School feasibility study, 25 DeChico Drive, Leominster, Mass. 01453, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, and for which the city may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, said amount to be expended under the direction of the School Building Committee. To meet this appropriation, the City Council, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. The city acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and any costs the city incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the city. And further provided that the appropriation hereunder shall be subject and contingent upon an affirmative vote of the city to exempt the amounts required for the payment of interest and principal on said borrowing from limitation on taxes imposed by MGL 59, Section 21C, Proposition 2.5, and the amount of borrowing authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the feasibility study agreement that may be executed between the city and the MSBA. Mr. President, based on the city's direction with this and the exciting prospect of upgrading another one of our school buildings, it would be my position to grant C-91.
Councilor Cormier. Are you in agreement?
I am.
Okay, and Councilor Angelini?
I'll make it unanimous, Mr. President.
Okay, you've heard the Councilor, for discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll be the first. All those, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-91. Is there any discussion? Councilor Schaffler-Zephyr.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair to the finance chair. Do we know for a fact that MSBA has granted or has committed to the 70% reimbursement?
Yes.
Because this document says, may be eligible for it, doesn't say we have received it.
They have committed to it. That is the reimbursement amount, 74% in the commitment. That document, like I said, is really for down the road when the numbers get higher and more expensive. We're actually not going to use, we're not going to use a loan order or a note or anything like that to finance this.
So for the feasibility study, the $2.5 million for the feasibility study.
It's reimbursable.
It is reimbursable?
Yep.
Okay, and the comptroller has that documented?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Brady.
Yeah, with the MSBA, I know they were having a discussion. I sat in on that Zoom meeting. So I don't believe they've decided yet whether it's going to be a renovation or a tear down.
That's correct.
We're hoping for a tear down. It would be the best case scenario.
Yeah, I think the feasibility study is in part going to determine what option makes more sense.
So, yeah, with that, because that money's reimbursable and, we're buying a new school 25 cents on the dollar.
Right.
Okay, good, all set. All right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-91 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-91 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, ordered that the sum of $2,500,000 be appropriated to the Fallbrook School Capital Project Fund, same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-91 has been granted. Moving on to C-92.
C-92, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request an appropriation of $16,847 be made to the refuse disposal expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This is regarding excess fuel costs under our contract for refuse disposal. This is the first time since we've had a contract that this has ever been kicked in. No surprise, I don't think, to anybody. Obviously, the cost of fuel has gone up, and contractually, the contractor is entitled to this money, and that would be my position, Mr. President, as a result of that, to grant C-92.
Councilor Cormier?
I agree.
Councilor Angelini?
I'm in agreement as well, Mr. President.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-92. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-92 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-92 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
I do. Order that the sum of $16,847 be appropriated to the refuse disposal expense account, same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-92 has been adopted. C-93.
C-93, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request an appropriation of $80,000 be made to the Highway Fuel Depot expense account, same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Again, excess fuel costs. This is for fuel maintained at the DPW to not only fuel the DPW vehicles, but also police and fire vehicles, also fuel there. We may not need every bit of this, according to the comptroller, but, they just want to make sure they have an appropriate amount budgeted. And we all know what's happening with fuel prices, and unfortunately, this is a reality. So, Mr. President, it would be my position to grant C-93 and ask you to check with members of my committee.
Councilor Cormier?
I agree.
Councilor Angelini?
I'm in agreement as well.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-93. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-93 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-93 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, order that the sum of $80,000 be appropriated to the Highway Fuel Depot expense account, same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order, please signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-93 has been adopted. C-94.
C-94, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $25,000 be made to the municipal building maintenance expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This has to do with a whole litany of smaller matters, which are upgrades to City Hall that are underway or have been completed, and they need this extra money in order to keep the building up. So it would be my position, Mr. President, to grant C-94.
Councilor Cormier, are you in agreement?
I agree.
Councilor Angelini?
I'm in agreement as well.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-94. Is there any discussion? Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yep, through the chair to the finance chair. Could we just have a list of what those upgrades are?
Yeah, I did ask that question to the comptroller, and at the time, all she could tell me was it was general repairs and maintenance, but I can ask her to see if she can give me a list.
Yeah, I mean, that would be helpful because, you know, we can tell people what the money's being spent on
Sure.
and brag about what's being done in City Hall.
Okay, I will ask her.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-94 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-94 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, order that the sum of $25,000 be appropriated to the municipal building maintenance expense account, same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order signify by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-94 has been adopted. Moving on to C-95.
C-95, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $43,000 be transferred from the stabilization account to the highway capital account. This is a very interesting story. This began with an improvement to the sidewalks around the Francis Drake School and Viscoid Avenue. When this project got underway, the Mass DOT got behind it and created a much bigger project. $3 million of grant money from the state alone is coming to us. Our responsibility under this project was to appraise and pay for the takings necessary to improve the sidewalks and the public way. The original estimate when our part of this grant was determined was $500,000. When this was in front of us for an initial appropriation to get this started of $50,000, the estimate was reduced to $200,000. Now, the ultimate cost to us is $43,000, which was really the offices of John Roseberry going around knocking on doors and getting people, in most cases, to donate the takings. So, you know, kudos to John for doing such a good job. And we are leveraging a lot of money with $43,000. So it would be my position, Mr. President, to grant C-95. I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Cormier.
Absolutely, I agree.
Councilor Angelini.
I'll make it unanimous.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-95. Is there any discussion? Councilor Brady.
Yeah, I just would feel that perhaps we can give accolades to those people that donated the land and maybe give them a certificate from the council thanking them for making the city. I mean, it's a substantial amount of money we saved.
I'm sure that the city clerk could obtain that information and certainly send them, you know, our thanks from this body if there's no objection.
Good idea.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councilor Brady. Is there any other discussion on C-95? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-95 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-95 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
I do. Order that the sum of $43,000 be appropriated to the highway capital account, same to be transferred from the stabilization account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order signify by saying yea.
Yay.
Those, a roll call?
Oh, right.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you. I will go back and do this by roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Brady.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Deacon.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. C-95 has been granted. Do we have a, do you have an order?
Ordered that the sum of $43,000 be appropriated to the highway capital account, same to be transferred from the stabilization account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Okay, we have to do the order in a roll call manner as well, beginning with Counsel Bedanza.
Yay.
Counsel Cormier.
Yay.
Counsel Arndinger.
Yay.
Counsel Angelini.
Yay.
Counsel Brady.
Yay.
Counsel Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counsel Deacon.
Yay.
Counsel Frida.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. C-95 has been adopted. Moving on to 60-22. Is the Chairman of Finance ready to report?
That's on a different page, right?
No, that's,
Oh, wait a minute, yeah.
that's here. It's just,
Yeah.
it's duplicated, so we're just going to skip over it on the next
Okay.
one. Was
All
a
right,
mistake.
this is Gregory C. Chapdelaine, purchasing agent, request to enter into a 6-year contract with the animal control officer and animal inspector services. There's a letter to us from both Mr. Chapdelaine and our health director, Mr. Stevens. Dear honorable members of the Leominster City Council, this petition is to allow the purchasing agent to move to award a contract for animal control and inspection services for the health department for a 6-year period. The current contract will expire July 30th of this year. In anticipation of this expiration, I'm in the process of preparing a request for proposals to secure these services for the next 6 years and services to begin August 1st of this year. Per Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, Section 12B, the city can only enter into service contracts for a length of time equal to 3 years or less. In order to enter into a service contract for a length of time greater than 3 years, the city council must pass by a majority vote to allow the extension. Said council approval must be granted before the contract is executed. The animal control vendor is responsible for all animal control activities, complaints, kenneling of captured problematic pets, state reporting, etc., as well as all animal inspection duties, which includes farm animals, kennel inspections, animal quarantines, etc. The list of duties and responsibilities, as well as job certification, is quite extensive. For over the past 9 years, the city has issued 3-year contracts for this service, but the familiarity from years of outsourcing this service, of how the service and related vendors operate, allows us the confidence to now move to a 6-year contract period. The 6-year contract length will allow the city to retain the same vendor over a longer period of time so that the same vendor is in place to handle all of the city's animal nuisance issues. As with all our extended year contracts, this will allow less disruption in the health department operations, as well as the city receiving better pricing for longer-term contract versus a shorter-term period. This petition must be voted upon now as I prepare to issue a new bid contract, as I must know what time period / contract length I will be able to structure the contract around. I would respectfully advise the city council vote in favor of extending the animal control services contract to cover a 6-year period. If you have any questions concerning this issue, please do not hesitate to contact myself or the health director. I mean, we've done this with our purchasing agent on a number of occasions. I trust Mr. Chapdelaine's judgment. He's obviously quite familiar with this service, and it would be my position, Mr. President, to grant 60-22.
Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
Councilor Angelini.
I'm in agreement as well.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of Finance to grant 60-22. Is there any discussion? Councilor Frida.
I agree with this going to a 6-year contract, but I notice we're starting to get a lot more requests for 6-year contracts. I think if we're going to get many more, we need to start getting how much of his cost savings is going to be between the 3-year and the 6-year. Some case it might not be a good point, but I think if we're going to, in the future, if we could get both of those just so we have a comparison, it would be a good idea.
Okay. All right, is there any other discussion? Councilor Brady.
I do have one. With that, if we could just make sure the purchasing agent has some performance guarantees, because if the service is not being provided, you know, I'm absolutely sure in the contract there's some outs and things like that, but just to make sure.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
You know, it might be a good idea, just to respond to both issues that were just raised, if we asked the purchasing agent to come down and just, you know, talk to us a little bit and give us a broad framework of what the 6-year contract's involved. He can confirm whether there must be performance guarantees in there. He can tell us on average, you know, what the cost savings are from a 3 to a 6-year contract. So if we get him down here when we have a light evening without a lot of hearings, I think that would be helpful.
We could do that. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will now take a vote to grant 60-22. All those in favor signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 60-22 has been granted. Moving on to 61-22.
61-22, Gregory C. Chapdelaine, Purchasing Agent, request to enter into a 6-year contract for water backflow testing service. I actually don't have this in my packet. I don't know if the clerk has an extra copy.
It's not with mine either.
Mark? Thank you. Okay. This is, again, a letter from the purchasing agent dated June 8th, 2022, regarding petition to enter into 6-year contract, water backflow testing service, fiscal year 23 through 28. Dear honorable members of the Leominster City Council, this petition is to allow the purchasing agent to award a contract for water backflow testing services for the Department of Public Works for a 6-year period. The current contract has already expired earlier this year. I'm in the process of preparing an invitation for bids to secure these services for the next 6 years. Said services to begin sometime this summer. Per Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 12, this is the same as the prior one. In order for them to enter into a contract of greater than 3 years, they need a council affirmative vote from the council. The water backflow testing services is for hiring a vendor who inspects commercial and industrial properties to ensure that backflow prevention devices are properly installed and in working order according to state regulations. Backflow prevention devices are used to prevent contaminants from said commercial and industrial properties from entering the city water system. For the past decade, the city has issued 3-year contracts for this service, but the familiarity from the years of outsourcing this service or how the service and related vendors operate allow us the confidence to now to move to a 6-year contract period. The 6-year contract length will allow the city to retain the same vendor over a longer period of time so that the vendor is in place to handle all the city's backflow device testing services. As with all of our extended year contracts, this will allow less disruption in DPW/Water Department operations, as well as the city receiving better pricing for a long-term contract versus a shorter period. This petition must be voted upon now as I prepare to issue a new bid contract. As I know what time the period contract length, I will be able to structure the contract around. I would respectfully advise the City Council vote in favor of extending the backflow testing services contract to cover a term of 6-year period. So, not unlike the prior petition, Mr. Chapdelaine is asking for the authority to go into a 6-year contract for less disruption and pricing advantages, and would be my position to grant 61-22. Mr. President, I ask you to check with members of my committee.
Councilor Cormier?
I agree.
Councilor Angelini?
Sounds perfectly logical, and I'll be supporting it as well.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant 60-22. Sorry, 61-22. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 61-22 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 61-22 has been granted. This next item under public service has been on our agenda for a few times, and it involves solely my employer, and I must abstain from this, so I am going to throw the chair now to the Vice President to handle this, and then I will be back.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was the, actually, I'm going to turn this over to the Chairwoman of Public Service.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is petition 55-22, Verizon New England, Inc. Requests permission to locate poles, wires, cables, and fixtures, including the necessary anchors, guys, and other such sustaining and protecting fixtures to be owned and used in common by your petitioners along and across the following public way or ways. Merriam Avenue, Place 1, solely owned pole number T.104S, on the east side of Merriam Avenue at a point approximately 163 feet northerly from the center line of Shadow Lawn Drive. Reason, place 1 solely owned pole on Merriam Avenue at the request of an abutter to remove a trespass and to provide for distribution of intelligence and telecommunications. So we did have a, this has been, I think, the 3rd time on our agenda. We did have a public hearing earlier this evening. Unfortunately, Verizon did not send a representative, and there are still several outstanding questions about this pole placement. So at this point, my recommendation would be to give this further time and ask the clerk, again, to reach out to Verizon with the questions that we discussed earlier. And I would also give them an indication that if they don't, produce the information and attend the next meeting, then I think we should just table this. I think, we just keep talking about it. So that's my recommendation at this point, if you would poll my committee, Madam Chair.
Councilor Frida?
Oh, okay, good.
Continue the public hearing.
Continue
You
the
agree?
public hearing and further time, yep.
And further time. And Councilor Brady?
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in a little bit that that letter sent to Verizon should show major concern. The gentleman that spoke last time indicated that this could be an emergency situation. Their lack of response is very concerning to me. Okay, we need some guarantees that that pole is not going to fall in the next week or two.
Right. I mean, the obvious lack of concern would indicate to me that it is less of, less of a potential problem.
You would think so, but
Right.
just based on their statements, it very much concerns me. Perhaps we have our own wire inspector go inspect that pole and see if it turns into an emergency situation. I just don't want to take inaction and have it turn into something that hurts someone.
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. So, so the clerk will send that letter. She will know, the
Perhaps,
committee's
I don't know if
concerns.
that's in the purview of the wire inspector, but perhaps our public safety should take a look at it. I'm not comfortable just letting time go by.
I think we can
Just
include
based on
that
his
certainly in the
statement.
letter. And
I can reach out to Ray Racine and then Joe Poirier and see if they can tag team to go check on the pole too, to make sure it's stable.
Just so we can get their opinion.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously Verizon's not responding to us, so
Yeah.
I think we can get together and do some strongly
Worded language, yeah.
convincing letter that they need to take this a bit more
Seriously.
seriously and get us some answers. Thank you. Councilor
If I
Angelini?
could just weigh in, could we entertain sending that certified mail return receipt requested? And as well as email, however, regular correspondence. But I think it's important, as my colleague from Ward 1 and the chair reflected earlier, I would strongly suggest that we remind them that they've missed two public
Important
hearings.
meetings, yeah.
So I can send an email to Albert. He oversees the polls, kind of like Vincent does with National Grid. And I've been contacting him regarding it. I'll send it to him, and then I can send him a certified letter, but also there's a different department that gets the polls once they're concluded. I can send them a certified letter as well, separate from Albert, and see if maybe that lights a fire somewhere.
That's good. And also, if you would follow up with Brian Riley, because we did reach out to KP Law to ask, whose liability is it if a pole falls over? We wanted to clarify that as well.
I reminded him on Friday, but I'll remind him again.
Right,
Thank you.
because they did make that statement public, kind of putting it on us and make sure that
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so we have a unanimous recommendation by the Public Services Committee to continue the public hearing to July 11th, 2022 at 6:50 PM, and to give this further time. And we are also going to, the clerk is going to make sure we get in contact with Brian Riley and to contact our wire inspector here in Leominster and to see if we can get their input on that. So all those in favor of continuing this to July 11th, 2022 at 6:50, please signal in the usual manner. All those opposed, so by a vote of 8-0, this matter is granted, the public hearing is continued and this matter is granted further time.
Okay, moving on to items under Ways and Means.
No, we have
Sorry,
one more.
Public Service.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
59-22. Madam Chairwoman, are you ready to report?
I am. 59-22, William Brady, Ward 1 Counselor, request to install a streetlight on pole number NG1 at 7 Crescent Street. So this was given regular course at our last meeting on 6/13. We still have several referrals out, the DPW, wire inspector, and mayor's office. Have you seen any of those? No? Okay. Certainly.
Can I weigh
As
in
the
on this?
petitioner, certainly.
As a petitioner, I did contact the wire inspector. He did a site visit. He supported it. I checked with the mayor's office. He supports it. But I'll wait for their letters just to make sure
Absolutely.
that, so maybe further time.
Good, yeah, absolutely. So would you check with my other committee member? My recommendation, well, go ahead. My recommendation be further time. Yep. Okay. So the committee's recommendation is further time, and if the clerk can follow up with the mayor and the wire inspector and the DPW to get their referrals in writing, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Public Service Committee to give 59-22 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 59-22 further time signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 59-22 has been given further time. Moving on to items under Ways and Means, 58-22. Madam Chairwoman, are you ready to report?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is 58-22, Brendan O'Donohue on behalf of Best Buy Stores, LP number 1433, request to renew license to deal secondhand articles at 33 Orchard Hill Park Drive in Leominster. I can tell you that the application has been completed, the documentation has been submitted, and we have letters of good standing with both the Leominster Treasurer and the Leominster Police Department. So it would be my recommendation that we renew this license, and I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
And Councilor Deacon?
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant 58-22. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 58-22 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 58-22 has been granted. Moving on to C-96 under Ways and Means.
C-96, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the Leominster City Council endorse the Leominster, that should say 2022 to 2028, Open Space and Recreation Plan. I do have the letter here from the Mayor's office dated June 8th, 2022. Members of the City Council, I am requesting that the Leominster City Council vote to endorse the Leominster 2021 to 2028 Open Space and Recreation Plan. The plan was originally presented to the council on September 21st, 2021. Aside from simple technical updates such as renumbering, the only changes to the plan were to add additional pickleball courts and to acquire additional parcels to enhance the Twin Cities Rail Trail as action items. As you know, the plan has undergone a comprehensive process of more than a year, including Zoom meetings, in-person meetings, and surveys to produce a final plan that will help us to accomplish our environmental and recreational goals through the next 6 years. I would appreciate your endorsement of the plan. Thank you. And it's signed Dean J. Mazzarella. I can report that I was actually on this committee. There were numerous Zoom meetings. The committee worked very hard. They did surveys, they reached out, they spoke with people in the community, people in the DPW to get an idea of what was best set out for this. And I apologize, I did mean to pull the original copy that we got. I didn't have that opportunity today. I hadn't reviewed it, but I had reviewed it back in September. It would be my recommendation that we endorse this plan. And I would ask you, Mr. President, to poll the members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
And Councilor Deacon?
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant C-96. Is there any discussion? Councilor Angelini?
Very briefly, Mr. President, this document is instrumental on the grant checklist. So it's really important that we endorse this, get it approved, and give our grant writer all the tools she needs to keep bringing the funds to our treasury. Thank you.
Okay. All right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-96 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-96 has been granted. Moving on to C-97.
C-97, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request that Kelly Marciano be exempt from the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, 20B, Conflict of Interest Laws. And I do have a letter from the Mayor's office dated June 8th, 2022. Dear members of the City Council, I respectfully request that Kelly Marciano be exempt from the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, Conflict of Interest. Ms. Marciano is currently employed by the City of Leominster School Department as a basketball coach and will be taking a position with the Leominster Recreation Department as the Fast Break Field Hockey League Coordinator. Attached, please find the disclosure of financial interest by a municipal employee. If you have any questions, please feel free to call my office at any time. And this disclosure of financial interest is included on the application. This comes up basically every summer, and these are employees who are usually with the school department. The recreation department needs extra help over the summer, and this allows them to have somebody that's already involved with the school system to take on a second position or a summer position with the recreation department. Without this, we would be in dire straits to fulfill all the needs of the recreation department over the summer. So it would be my position to grant this exemption, and I would ask you to check with the members of my committee.
Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
Councilor Deacon?
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant C-97. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-97 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-97 has been granted. Moving on to C-98.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that Brianna Wark be exempt from the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 268A, 20B, Conflict of Interest. I have a letter from the Mayor's office dated June 8th, 2022. Dear members of the City Council, I respectfully request that Brianna Wark be exempt from the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, Conflict of Interest. Ms. Wark is currently employed by the City of Leominster School Department as a paraprofessional and will be taking a position with the Leominster Recreation Department as a summer program counselor. Attached, please find the disclosure of financial interest by a municipal employee. If you have any questions, please feel free to call my office at any time. Similar to the C-97, for all the same reasons, would be my recommendation that we request the exemption for Ms. Brianna Wark, and I'd ask you to poll the members of my committee.
Councilor Arndinger?
I agree.
Councilor Deacon?
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant C-98. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-98 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-98 has been granted. Moving on to items under new business. We have the first reading of an ordinance, which is formally petition C-84. And this is referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, after going through the packet this weekend, and I noticed the final ordinance forms were not in my packet, so I hustled down to see the clerk first thing this morning. She informed me that she had not received them back from City Solicitor's Office. So at this time, I would ask, I'm going to recommend further time, and I would ask you to check with members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Bedanza?
It makes perfect sense under the circumstances.
And Councilor Cormier?
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation to give this first reading of an ordinance, which is formally petition C-84, further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving this further time signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, this has been given further time. We have another first reading of an ordinance, which is formally petition 48-22, Mr. Chairman. of Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, the same situation exists with this first reading of an ordinance, and I'm afraid I will have to recommend further time again, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Bedanza.
I agree.
And Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to give this first reading of an ordinance, which was formally petitioned 48-22 further time. Is there any discussion? Councilor Brady.
Yeah, just a quick point. Didn't we change that last amendment proposed to take effect to July 1? Didn't we change that wording to upon passage?
We did. That legal language did go to the city solicitor. And I was just waiting for him to see how he drafted it to amend it on our agenda so it matches appropriately.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good question. Nice catch. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? All those in favor of granting further time signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 9-0. Further time has been granted to this first reading as well. Oh, 8-1. I do apologize. That is a vote of 8-1 with a nay from Councilor Frida. Okay. We do have one other item on the agenda. I know that the assistant is usually pretty quiet and just sits here and takes a lot of notes. So a lot of people don't really, some may not recognize, but the seat to my right is vacant. The assistant has left the city of Leominster and has found another employment opportunity, and we wish her all the very best in her new endeavors. So that leaves us now with the task of searching for a new assistant city clerk. And this task is going to be assigned to the Ways and Means Committee. We have a set of legal opinion from KP Law from back in 2016, I believe it was, and all that language is still in effect as of today. So there will be a new search, and I know there's some new counselors here as well. The process was lined out for us in 2016 in a legal opinion, because at that time it had probably been about 15 years, if not more, since we had done that, and there was some new case law. I believe they cited some case law at the time from the town or city of Westboro. So there's going to have to be, what will happen is there will be more than one candidate that will be presented to the city council as a whole for an interview, but all the other candidates will be considered by the committee only in executive session. All of the applicants will be confidential, even to all of the other city councilors who are not on Ways and Means. And once the Ways and Means Committee has a few finalists to present to us for consideration, then those names and resumes will be made public of those candidates that are coming before the entire city council. So the Ways and Means Committee will be busy behind closed doors. This is one of the very few things we can do in executive session and not out in public. And then the city council will weigh in. And Councilor Brady, I see your hand.
Yeah, and just based on what you just said, Ways and Means Committee, I would really strongly suggest that this person be bi or trilingual.
Okay. All right. We certainly will do, we consider everything. Is there any other comments, discussion? Madam Clerk, you have, I did get copies of those legal opinions, and there was a new one that was sought and given as well. So Madam Clerk, if you can distribute those to the City Council, just so that everybody can understand, the process. We've used it 2 times before, and like I said, the city solicitor had weighed in on that years ago, and that is the process. So is there any other discussion on that piece? If not, is there Councilor Frida, I do apologize. Go right ahead.
Yeah, well, the Ways and Means Committee is charged with that. I'd like to get a copy of the contract of the clerk and the assistant clerk so that we can review those. I don't remember looking at those for a long time. So if we could get those copies before any process is started.
Okay. All right. Can we get you have a copy of those, I'm sure, readily available. We can get those right out. Okay. Is there any other discussion on this matter? Okay, seeing none. Is there any other new business to come before the City Council? Councilor Brady.
New business. Just based on the email received from the council president, I really need clarification on the procedure to issue citations. That email, the way it was worded, wasn't helpful for someone who doesn't know the procedures.
Oh, okay.
It was more of a corrective email and not an instructional.
Absolutely. So when we issue citations to distinguished members of our community, Eagle Scouts and others, or a business congratulatory, they've always come from the City Council as a whole. And so it was my understanding that there were employees in the clerk's office who were drafting those up for individual members of the City Council to go out into the community and represent this body at events that went on recently. So,
not to interrupt, I'm just wondering what the procedure is.
Yeah, so the procedure is if anybody is deserving of a citation, you can let the city clerk know. She'll let me know. I'll say, sure, go ahead, print it up, and everybody's going to come into the city clerk's office like we used to, or we can pass it around at a meeting. Everybody's going to sign it, and then the person who's delivering it can pick it up and certainly go and present it to, whoever is deserving of it in the community. It comes from the entire council, not one councilor. If one councilor wants to go off on their own and do that, that's their prerogative, but that is not official business of the city clerk's office. That should be done by way of your own means. Anything that comes out of the clerk's office is for this entire body. And if anybody disagrees, they can weigh in, but somebody was out representing the city council with a certificate that was not from this entire body. And I've never done that.
I read the copies that we were given, and this obviously is directed at one councilor, the longest-serving councilor on the council. And the tone of the email is, I think I'm having trouble with, but, certificates are good for the community. It builds trust bonds. If we review what was given, there was Gold Star Mothers, there was a long-term business. I mean, they were all, I'm not going to speak for every member of the council, but I think all of us would support everyone.
Right, I agree, from the entire council. I don't think anybody would have not, but that comes from the city, that comes from the entire city council. That's how it works. We're a body. And if somebody wants to go off on their own and give somebody an award, then that's their prerogative, but not through the city clerk's office. That's just not, we're a body. If somebody's representing the city council, then they should be going through all members of the city council and then going out into the community and presenting it. I mean, and what you do on your own is your own. But through the city clerk's office, that comes from all of us. Okay, Councilor Frida?
I didn't bring this up, and I wasn't planning on bringing it up, but this going off representing the city council on their own, you could easily say that was me rather than an individual of people running around. I did that, and it was also under your supervision initially. I mean, we were all in the city clerk's office, the clerk, the assistant clerk, you and myself, when we were trying to figure out during the pandemic how to have a certificate. You approved them until it got to a point that I presented one at a retirement party from me, not from the city council. My name was the only name that was on there. It was from me, but it happened to be someone that you don't like, so all of a sudden you start sending out
That's not true.
these emails.
Let's not start this.
You want to
okay?
start, I didn't
Let's
start
not
this, but
start this,
you're
okay?
accusing.
That is not true.
No? Okay.
No, it's not.
Well, that's not what I heard. Because I
Really?
couldn't figure out why after 7
All right,
certificates.
this is done.
Of course.
Okay, it's all done.
It's
not
always
even
done
on
when
the.
you have to
it's
answer
done.
a question,
It's
Mr.
done.
President.
Okay.
You know, if you want to act like a leader.
If you did, if
pick up
somebody
the-
else,
pick
if
up the
somebody
phone.
else on this council went out and represented the entire council.
No,
Okay.
you look at that- look at that
You'd be the
certificate and see if
first
it's-
one.
Yeah.
You'd be the first one mentioning that
Because
someone else
well,
is speaking
you
for you.
better make sure that's what
okay?
happened.
Yeah.
You better double check because
certificates?
you weren't there. So you
Well,
don't know how it was presented.
the
If
city-
you want to
the
begrudge
city-
Eagle Scouts, Blue Star
I
Mothers.
am not begrudging
getting-
anyone. I'm
Yeah,
saying
I think that's the case.
it comes from this body.
I think that's the case,
It
Mr.
comes
President.
from the entire body.
Why would you not pick up the phone and call me instead of sending an email to every city
I
councilor?
spoke to the city clerk.
Every city councilor,
I
you sent that
spoke-
accusing me.
I spoke to the
This
city
is
clerk's
continuous.
office. That's who I
And the
spoke
public
to.
needs to know how continuous
Okay.
it is with your bullying and some of the comments that you make.
I've spoke
And
to
a
the-
public records request, when all you have to do is ask the clerk for the copies of
I
them?
did.
Or ask me what I sent? But you're working through the public records request, the Secretary of State's office, to find out what I actually sent?
Yeah, it's public record.
That's a pretty sad commentary.
keep
I hope
records
you
of
do
all that
send it.
stuff. They
I hope
keep
you do,
records of all
because
that
then
stuff.
when they investigate it, we'll find
Yeah,
out.
Okay.
But
Any
that's a
other, is there
pretty
any
poor
other
leadership.
new business to come before the city council? Any other old business? Anything under the community calendar? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, seconded by Councilor Arndinger. All those in favor signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 9-0. We are adjourned.
The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.